Mr. President.
Senator from New Jersey.
Mr. President, I rise today because more than 40 million Americans, including more than 800,000 New Jerseyans, are getting ready to sit down for dinner tonight, wondering if there will be enough food for tomorrow. Roughly 1 in 8 Americans rely on food assistance, and they're left asking if they'll be able to give their kids breakfast in the morning. Those are questions people in my state, in every state in this country, are facing. And it leads me to this question that we should ask ourselves. How did we get here? How did we get to this place where things are so broken that American families are having to ration meals to survive? We are the richest, most powerful country in the entire world. Yet people, so many millions of families, have to ask this question of whether or not they will have enough to eat. Now let's start with President Trump. He's not just absent from any effort to end this shutdown, he's actively weaponizing people's hunger. Last week, 2 federal judges in Massachusetts and Rhode Island ruled that the administration must use contingency funds or transfer authorities to continue SNAP benefits. Both courts found that it's unlawful for President Trump to hold up the money and benefits, and found that emergency funds must be used to keep Americans fed during this shutdown. Now, yesterday, his administration told federal judge that they would use a contingency fund to pay half of SNAP benefits. But today, Trump made it clear he would defy the court order and won't pay anything unless Democrats stop our attempt to lower health care costs. And then the White House came out hours later to try to do some cleaning up, saying that they would comply. I don't know what to believe. No one in America knows what to believe. How can Americans that are hungry plan their next meal with this level of uncertainty coming from the White House? That's not leadership. Now, we know this president has the authority to make this pain stop. Now, during his first term, his own administration issued guidance saying these contingency funds are available if SNAP funds lapse due to a government shutdown. Now, during this second term, the pre-shutdown documents confirming the USDA would be able to continue funding SNAP have vanished. They're just gone, removed from the website. So, we know the authorities exist. We know the money exists. What we don't know is the willingness of Donald Trump to put American families ahead of himself. We have billions to send to Argentina, hundreds of millions for a new gold-plated ballroom, but money to keep food on the table of millions of families. Donald Trump doesn't think that's a priority. Well, of course he's wrong. And that is one way that we arrive at this moment. The second reason why families are having to question where their next meal is coming from is found across the Capitol, where Speaker Johnson, just on the other side of this hallway, hasn't brought the House into session in more than 45 days. What would happen to the American people? What would happen to your jobs if you didn't show up for 45 days? Now, this is not just an abdication of responsibility, it is a dereliction of duty, and people will suffer because of it. There is real harm. It is not theoretical. So for these 42 million Americans, they're not asking for the moon. They're just asking for a little help to be able to feed their kids, to be able to feed their families in a time of need, to be able to just be able to provide and live a life of dignity and decency. Now, this is something that our government should do. What is the value of government if we cannot help people, our fellow citizens, in their time of need? It is at the core of what we do. And at a time like this, I find myself thinking back to Mr. Rogers' quote, "Always look for the helpers." We all know that line. And as I look around, I ask, well, where are the helpers? I look at the White House. I see corruption. I see cruelty. I look at the House of Representatives that has been on for nearly a 7-week vacation, getting paid while many government employees are showing up to work and not getting paid, worried about whether or not they're going to be able to pay the bills. While President Trump and House Republicans fail them, I see in my own home state of New Jersey people stepping up to be the helpers. I see people back home who have taken it upon themselves to do what the White House and the Congressional Republicans have prevented us from doing. People like Mary from Medford, who as a teacher is personally doing check-ins with her students to make sure their families have resources as New Jersey heads into winter, while also organizing a Thanksgiving drive with her friends and family to collect winter items and food to donate to Camden. Or Pamela from Rocky Hill, who has taken it upon herself to purchase grocery store gift cards and sending them to AmeriCorps members across New Jersey who would otherwise rely on SNAP for monthly food costs. Or Leslie from Stockton, who is donating to local food banks in her community, who says, quote, "I feel very fortunate that I can donate food. No one in this country should lack a roof over their head, heat in their home, medical care, or nutritious food." I wish those words were coming out of the President of the United States. I wish those values were shared by the leaders in the House of Representatives that are not even showing up. And these are just snapshots of hundreds of stories we have received from New Jerseyans who have stepped up in their own communities by increasing donations to food banks, giving away their free turkeys from the grocery stores, volunteering more at local pantries across the state. The list goes on and on. Well, I want to close here by highlighting the last part of Mr. Rogers' famous quote. We all know, look for the helpers. What is not as commonly thought of is the sentences that follow. He says, look for the helpers, because if you look for the helpers, you'll know that there's hope. Mr. President, as my office continues to receive stories from all over my state, I'm just so proud to represent these 9 million Americans who left, right, or center, old and young, are currently stepping up. They are the helpers who give me hope. I urge my colleagues to listen to those back home in their states, those here on the floor telling stories from back home. We cannot allow Americans to go hungry. We cannot allow these games to go on with people's lives. We must become the helpers for those we represent. That is the true meaning of the job that we do here. While we carry the title of senators, ultimately what the people ask of us are to be the helpers that they can look to be able to help them in their time of need. And right now, that means fully funding SNAP so people in this country don't go hungry. And with that, I'll yield back.